Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's poppin', Fantasy Champions? Rick is depressed. Nelson Aguilar, New England Patriots wide receiver. And everyone is celebrating.
Yep.
Yikes. You'll come around.
My least favorite, and I said this to you.
Come around.
I've said this to my friends before, and I said this to you before we started the show. My least favorite player, not just receiver, but my least favorite player in the NFL is probably Nelson Aguilar.
Why?
Because he used to take there's a long backstory.
Mine's Ndamukong Suh, but I would take Ndamukong Suh on the pass.
Oh, Ndamukong Suh was good. Aguilar's not. It was when I had Alshon Jeffrey like 3 years ago, and then they threw the ball to Aguilar 10 times. And it was the year he had like 50 drops.
It sounds like you should be more mad at the coaching staff and the quarterback than you should be at Aguilar.
No, because he had a ton of drops, and he stinks.
Did you have Aguilar?
He had a good... No.
So why does it matter if you drop the ball?
Because it was taking away targets from other guys, and I was like, wow, this guy really stinks. Why are they throwing them the ball? I want to look up his drop. I know he had a good year last year with the Raiders.
He's really triggered about Nelson Aguilar. Welcome to Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. We're going to talk about our top 5 wide receivers for the 2021 fantasy football season. It's going to be an interesting show. We also might throw in a 6th guy just for fun. Rick is now making faces about nothing.
In 2019, he had a 9% drop percentage. That is insanely high.
Oh, man.
All right.
Who thought that Nelson Aguilar was going to sign before Kenny Golladay?
Only Bill.
Not me. So anyway, before we jump into our top 5 wide receivers for 2021 fantasy football, we're going to try to keep this brief, fast, and to a T. Last episode was 42 minutes long. Hate that. Don't want to take up your time too long. So before we jump into the main, what do you call it? The main edition, the main event. Main event.
Okay.
Check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter at the FF Champs, on Instagram at the Fantasy Champions. You can follow us at facebook.com/the Fantasy Champions. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review, subscribe, break that subscribe button in half, and unlock the smaller subscribe button. Just hit that subscribe button all day.
Yeah, do it.
Very strange. Leave a review, share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe as well. Click the bell for notifications so you get a notification whenever we post a podcast. Listen to that whole sucker. Listen to the whole show all the way through. Even if you get bored, just mute it and leave it on.
Yeah.
And then like and comment down below your favorite wide receiver from this podcast. And if you have any questions about any of our top 5, don't make this is opinions, my guys. So if you start making fun of us for our top 5, suck it.
Well, you can be like, your opinion sucks. You've said that before.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but it's rankings.
Yeah.
I saw somebody rank Jamar Chase 7.
Oh, that's crazy.
Is that clickbait or?
Probably. No, I've seen a lot of Jamar Chase outside. I saw him I think wide receiver 6.
You know
too.
those that cartoon with the blind mice?
Yeah.
And the meme or GIF or GIF, however you say it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
That's literally people trying to discuss.
Yeah, I know it is. It is.
Oh, if you can't see Jamar Chase's talent, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh,
pretty much.
It's
just people trying to be different, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to talk about our top 5 wide receivers. Some of this is very different from consensus. So we'll go through, I guess, because the top 4, I did rank him 3. Can I see your top 4? Okay, so the top 2 guys are the same. So we'll go off the top 2 guys, and then we'll talk about where we ranked the next 3 or 4 guys. And I want to pull up the ECR, which I didn't do before the show, just to see where certain guys are being ranked right now. And this is half PPR? No, it's not. Okay, ready? So the first guy on our top 5 for 2021 fantasy football is Devonta Adams. I hate ranking the guy who went wide receiver 1 on the season the number 1 guy, because I actually think A.J. Brown could be that guy, or Tyreek Hill. But as long as the Packers don't draft or sign a wide receiver, Devonta Adams is going to continually get 425 targets a season from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean,
if Aaron Rodgers could throw it to Devonta Adams every play, he would.
He absolutely would, yeah. I think that's Nelson Aguilar. I just saw another report that it said the Patriots are adding a former first-round wide receiver, but I'm pretty sure that's just Nelson Aguilar.
Guess what? Rob Gronkowski is returning to the Bucks. 1 year, $10 million.
Oh.
I would have.
Oh, that's gross. $26 million for 2 years. That's $13 million a year.
For Nelson Aguilar? That's gross, dude. All right, let's talk about Devonta Adams.
I might puke.
Get
Okay,
your mind off
let's talk about something else.
So
please.
yes, Devonta Adams. He is a target horde of Aaron Rodgers. And I think when you look at Devonta Adams, obviously there's not a lot to say. This is almost similar to Travis Kelce. 2 years it wasn't this past year, but it was 2019, I believe. He got hurt several times, and he just wasn't the same receiver in that whole season because he got hurt so many times. But he came back this year, and he was that top 3 wide receiver that you expected him to be. He's just consistent on a week-to-week basis. He doesn't have to be the wide receiver 1 on the week or get 30 fantasy points in a week in order to, like, Tyreek Hill literally needed that 50-point game to keep himself in contention to be in the top 3.
Yeah.
Whereas, Devonta Adams he gets consistently 15 to 20 point games and half PPR every single week. And it's that consistency that really benefits you. And he's really, to be honest with you, he's the only wide receiver that I would draft in the first round.
Yeah, I remember last year we were talking about, we had the same thing. We're like, I don't want to rank Michael Thomas 1 because he just finished as the wide receiver 1 in all fantasy. Right. But we were like, well, after the year he just had, you kind of have to. Mm-hmm. No, after the year Devonta Adams had, who was even better than Michael Thomas in 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost impossible to not rank him number 1.
Yeah.
He was absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think really that's, as of today, not going to change. He's still going to get targeted like crazy.
Yeah.
I think he missed 2 games, and he was still the wide receiver 1 in fantasy.
Jeepers.
Yeah, he was ridiculous all year. And the biggest thing with Adams was just consistency, too. Like you were saying, week in and week out, you could rely on him to get you 15, 20 points, which is huge. Yeah, he missed 2 games, which is insane.
Wow. And he scored 300
points.
21.5. I remember talking last year about the amount of fantasy points per game that
week 1 to week.
Whoa.
Remember that Sammy Watkins?
I was like, whoa, dude. I was like, why is Sammy Watkins the wide receiver?
They both had 300 points.
Mike Thomas had 18.8 points per game, and I remember we talked about this and we were like, that's insane. 18 points per game is absolutely absurd.
And then Adams.
That he was able to, and then Adams went 21.5 points per game. To be honest with you, I think the most talented wide receiver in the NFL is probably DeAndre Hopkins.
Sure.
And Devonta Adams is not like, he's talented and he's very good.
Oh, he is very, yeah.
I
wouldn't be doing this if he wasn't at least top 5.
But I think the big thing for Devonta Adams is just the reason why he's there is because of the target share. If he is healthy for a full 16 games, and we're assuming the Packers did not add anyone in the offseason to the wide receiver core or anyone in the draft, it would not surprise me if he ends up the wide receiver 1 next year again. And it's just because of the amount of target share that he does get. I mean, he does good with the target share he gets, but there's no one else there to throw the football. So whether they're in their own 1 yard line, they'll throw a slant route to Adams, or they're on the other team's 1 yard line. You know what I mean? It's like wherever they are on the field, he gets the ball. If they're trying to get a guy and hit a guy in the end zone, it's either Bob Tonyan or Devonta Adams, and most likely it's going to be Devonta Adams who gets the play drawn up for him. So if they start adding guys, that's when I'll get slightly nervous. Like, I still think he's a top 5 guy, but if they go out and add a big name in free agency or a big name wide receiver in the draft, it would make me think that I'll be a little bit more nervous about Devonta Adams. Like, he's still really good. He's still fantastic. He'll still demand that target share. But if there is some guy to pull some targets away from him,
Yeah.
Because there is no vacated targets unless Bob Tonyan leaves, there is no real vacated targets for the Packers. So if they start adding guys, the person that's coming off of is Adams.
I think they are going to add a receiver too, and that might hurt Adams' value a little bit. He would be top 5, probably top 3 fantasy wide receiver, but I think you're right.
Right. Do you have any other thoughts on Adams?
No, we could talk about number 2.
Okay, so the number 2 guy, we both have him ranked 2. By the way, the ECR on Devonta Adams is 1.5 PPR, and we both have him 1, obviously. The second guy is Tyreek Hill. The ECR has him 2, and we both have him 2, correct?
Yes.
So I'm a little bit more hesitant on Tyreek Hill. I was bullish on him after the season. Obviously, that 50-point game was freaking ridiculous, and that if you just take that game away, even if you take it away, he's still a top 5 wide receiver. He was absolutely fantastic. The concerning fact for me when it comes to Tyreek Hill is how the Chiefs looked in the Super Bowl without an offensive line. They cut 2 of their tackles. They replaced one with Joe Thuney.
He's a guard, but I think he can play tackle.
Yeah, he can play tackle. So anyway, they cut 2 tackles. They replaced one of them, I guess, with Joe Thuney. And so we're going to have to see how that affects their offensive line. But I'm not saying Mahomes wasn't going to be good, but man, when he did not have time to throw the football and they had Tyreek Hill shut down on the outside of the field, like it was hard. It's hard for Tyreek Hill to get fantasy points. So I like Tyreek Hill. I'm trying to decide if he can be the wide receiver 1 on the year.
I think he in a normal year he probably would have this year.
Yeah.
And I think he was in 2018, right? Or he might close.
Hold on, let me look.
Yep.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So
I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying he can't be the one, but right now, just knowing where that team is going, because they also might add a wide receiver as well.
Sure.
And some of the stuff that's happening with the Chiefs, the style that they played in 2019, when that was Mahomes' first year, right? 2018.
Yeah, 2018.
So that year was obviously Mahomes' most ridiculous season that he's ever had. And they've changed their playing style as an offense to morph themselves into a different team.
Yeah.
So they do run the ball a lot more. They try to control the clock a lot more. When they need Mahomes to go off, he goes off. And when they need Hill to score 50 points in one quarter, he does that.
Yep.
But I think there's just going to be, he was one of the most, we talked about on our show about the most consistent players. He was one of the most consistent wide receivers.
Which is surprising because he wasn't that in 2018.
Right.
But yeah, he was very consistent. I think Hill is probably the safest bet, actually. I mean, if you look at 2018, when he was the wide receiver 1, he scored 280.
He's the safest top 5 wide receiver on this list besides Adams.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, in 2018, he scored 284 fantasy points. I don't know what he scored in 2019, but then in this year...
I think he got hurt in 2019, didn't he?
I think you're right. But then this year...
yeah, he would miss 4 games with a shoulder injury.
Yeah. But then this year, healthy season, 285. So his last 2 healthy seasons, he had 284 and 285 in total points. So I think he'll probably live around that range. As the offseason goes on, I might be tempted to rank him even a tad lower, though, because I agree with you. I don't know if his ceiling, it just doesn't excite you as much.
Yeah, right.
But still going to be good.
I wanted to look up his, I think he's a first-round pick. I think his ADP is 110.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to take him at 110.
Yeah. Like I said, I think
he's good though.
He's
our
safe.
number 2, and he's safe. Yep,
he's
got
safe.
Mahomes.
But is he safe enough to be a first-round pick where you know you're going to get, like when back in the day? The
yeah,
year
actually,
20,
you know what? If I'm picking at the end of the first
2010, I mean 2018, 2019, when Devonta Adams and Mike Thomas and those guys were at the top and they were going in the first round, like you felt like, okay, I can take Devonta Adams in the first round, I can take Michael Thomas in the first round because I know that they're going to be good, or I can take DeAndre Hopkins in the first round because I know he's going to be at least a top 3 guy. Now, you can't really, I don't know that I'm looking at Tyreek Hill going, okay, I can definitely draft him in the top 10 of my fantasy draft. Oh my word, they're just doling out money to bad receivers. The Patriots just signed Kendrick Bourne for 3 years, $24 million or $22 million.
Yep.
Is that what it was? But anyway, yeah, so I mean, like I said, I like Tyreek Hill. I might be on board with taking him in the second round. But right now he's going a little bit too high. I don't know. A part of me is like, I love Tyreek Hill and I'm ready for him to be real good. And then I'm like, part of me is like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, I know he's good and I know he's going to be good, right? I'm not saying that he's not. I'm just, part of me is like, is he gonna be like Michael Thomas or something like that?
It's like, is it the every other year thing too? Because like 2019 wasn't great, but then 2018, 2020
but even like
great.
when you look at that year in 2019 when he was hurt, he missed 4 games. So you're like, okay, because he missed 4 games, obviously he wasn't going to finish that high.
But he only had 13.
But he only had 13 points per game, whereas he had 19 this year. And if you take away the 50-pointer game, the 50-point game that he had, obviously I don't like to take away games when they actually counted and they were good.
Because it's taking away like a good game,
right? So it's like I just don't like doing that. But I think for Tyreek Hill, if you do take away that game, how many points per game did he have?
Oh, it goes way below.
It goes down to like 14 or 15, which is still top 5, but it's not number 1. Like I don't think. Hey, who knows? Maybe Tyreek Hill will start getting the Devonta Adams target share at some point. But if he did, holy frick, he would be good.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Let's talk about the next guy. You all right with that?
Yeah.
Or do you have anything else?
No,
why don't you give your thoughts on the? I was just gonna go off this list. What the third guy?
Well, we have 2 different guys.
We have 2 different guys, so we'll just talk about AJ Brown first. So
okay.
ECR
I think he was 7, right?
The ECR is lower on AJ Brown at 7. I have him 3.
Yep. And I have him 4, so we're both high on him.
Yeah, both high on him. What are your thoughts on Stefan Diggs? AJ Brown.
Love AJ Brown. He's gonna be the only guy there. He was great last year. Ended up getting surgery, I think, on both his knees after the season. So he played on
both his kneecaps.
Yeah, he played on hurt legs the whole year and was still a top. What was it, 5 wide receiver in fantasy?
Yeah, something like that.
It was still ridiculous. With Corey Davis gone, Jonnu Smith gone, they probably will draft somebody to replace Corey Davis, but nothing that's really going to take away AJ Brown's targets.
Yeah,
I mean, he's going to be a machine again next year, healthy. He just feels like it's his 3rd year as well. He just feels like he could be wide receiver 1, honestly.
Oh my god!
And I know he's your guy as well, so you can talk about him.
So AJ Brown last year really didn't get a large target share. He had around 106 targets, and I was talking about him before the season, and I was you know how much I love AJ Brown, but I was like, he needs to get more targets than he got in the previous season. Can you look up his numbers? Because I can't.
AJ Brown?
Yeah, I looked up the target share for him, and I'm only getting receptions. I got a target. Oh, I'm sorry. So he had 84 targets in. You don't have to anymore. I found it. He had 84 targets in 2019, and then in 2020 he upped it to 106.
But in 14 games.
In 14 games. So he obviously did get a lot more target share. If you give him 7, a game, he gets 120 on the season, which is kind of where I was like, okay, this guy can be a wide receiver 1 if he gets 120 targets. Without Jonnu Smith, without Corey Davis, there's a lot of vacated opportunity there for the Tennessee Titans, which means that he could hit the 140 range of target share. If he hits that 140 range of target share, I think AJ Brown he very well could be the wide receiver 1. I know people like DK Metcalf. I will put my entire fantasy analyst career on this, that he is not getting 140 targets next year.
That he's not
DK
getting...
Metcalf.
Yeah. What did he get last year again?
I don't know.
I wouldn't make a statement like that.
I think he got 120, but I know the Packers, the Seattle Seahawks don't throw the football a lot.
Well, they did for half the season.
Yeah, that's true.
And then all of a sudden they just...
Metcalf and AJ Brown are very similar in how they kind of play.
Yeah.
He had 129 targets.
Yeah.
So
I would.
Okay, I'll say 150.
Okay, there you go.
I'll feel better about that.
I would bet if both guys are fully healthy that I think AJ Brown does get more targets. DK Metcalf does.
And if that happens, that AJ Brown is the better receiver overall.
Yes.
And there's also a lot of stuff going on in Seattle right now. They're losing running backs. They might lose Russ, and if that happens, Metcalf just drops like a brick. You know what I mean? Yeah. But anyway. But for me, AJ Brown, like knowing what he is, like I've talked about this. I talked about AJ Brown before. He is so friggin' explosive. Like he could literally just turn like a 5-yard slant and take it to the house.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what I love about A.J. Brown is that at any moment, it's similar to Tyreek Hill, where Tyreek Hill could literally turn any play into a 70-yard touchdown pass for Mahomes. And it's like, it's a similar thing for A.J. Brown, where if they get him the ball enough, he'll have enough opportunities to score. I had him on my team, and I saw so many games where he caught 2 passes, and then the third pass was like an 80-yard touchdown, and all of a sudden it saved the whole week. And he had 4 catches for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like he ended up being ridiculous. But for him, I think it's going to be target share. And if that target share increases based on the vacated targets that they have as a team, it's going to look good for A.J. Brown. And that's why I have him 3 right now. Why do you have him 4?
Because I just think Diggs is safer. Do you want me to talk about Diggs and then go into it if you want me to say that?
No, that's all right.
Well, because then I can't make my argument.
All right, go ahead.
I think Diggs is a safer bet. The year he was better this past season with Josh Allen. He's going to be his second year in the system.
Yeah, Rick has him 3. I have Diggs 4, correct?
Yeah, so I mean,
it's really
it's picking
one player difference,
right? I love both these guys. I would be fine with either guy as my wide receiver 1.
Yeah,
but John Brown is gone. It's another year with Josh Allen, and Diggs was phenomenal last year. Anyway, I think he was the wide receiver 3, right? And I don't really see that changing. Like, if anything, he might get more targets, and he was a target machine this past year.
Yeah.
So, to me, he's a safer option than A.J. Brown, but A.J. Brown probably has the higher ceiling.
Yeah. I think you're right. The biggest thing for me is that right now, and this is why I do have A.J. Brown ranked higher. Right now, A.J. Brown is ADPing at 303, and Stefan Diggs is ADPing about 12 picks sooner at 1202. At 202. Sorry, it's not 1202. That would be a ridiculous pick. But anyway, so Diggs is going to cost you more. He's going to cost you a late first, early second round pick, whereas you can get A.J. Brown in the early third. And somewhere around there, and get your wide receiver 1 just a little bit later. Like, his positioning has not changed, even though he showed to be a ridiculous wide receiver in 2020.
Yeah.
So I think for me, like, when you look at that, the value is better. Like, the reason why I have Metcalf lower is because Metcalf is gonna cost you pick 204 right now, early second.
Sure. Yeah.
Whereas A.J. Brown's gonna cost you late second, early third. It's a little bit better of value there.
Right.
And I think that he has a higher ceiling than Diggs does. Like, I think ceiling-wise, Diggs hit it this year.
Yeah.
Like, he hit... I don't think... Okay. I may be wrong about this, and he could do this, but I don't think Diggs is going to finish as the wide receiver 1 ever.
Yeah, so that's a fair argument to make. I just think the year he had is very repeatable.
Yeah.
I agree with you that I don't know if he'll do much better than what he did, but I think it's repeatable to easily finish as like the wide receiver 3 or 4.
Like, I agree with you.
And I think
it's safe.
It's more. I'm more comfortable with that if I'm picking that high.
It's funny that you did a 180 on Diggs though, because
I know I love Diggs now. All of a sudden,
Stefan Diggs was not your favorite guy.
Yeah, I know.
Last year, and you talked me off him.
It's because it's because they didn't throw the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen's career best was like 24 touchdowns, whatever it was. And then all of a sudden he just turned into an MVP candidate.
Right. So yeah, I like I said, for me that's why I have A.J. Brown ranked higher. I think there's more value there. There's a higher ceiling.
No, I get it. I might end up by the end of the week end up doing. This is just my initial rankings.
Yeah, right. But for Stefan Diggs, man, he had an insane season, and he got a target share that was not expected. And there's a connection between Diggs and Josh Allen,
big time,
that I think a lot of people did not anticipate him having,
including myself.
But he ended the season with 168 targets, which was number 1 in the NFL.
Yeah,
he led in target share ahead of Devonta Adams. It was astounding. I'm shocked that he did.
I don't know about target share if he led ahead, but in total targets, because Adams did miss.
Yeah,
the 2
in total
games.
Targets. But for me, in the air yards, he was number 4. He had 11. He was number 11 in the league in red zone targets, and he caught 12 of his 16 red zone targets, which is absolutely insane. And he had He was number 3 in fantasy points per game. He ended the season as the number 4 wide receiver overall. Number 3 wide receiver.
Yep.
So with 265 fantasy points, he had 16 fantasy points a game. Obviously, it's a massive drop off from Tyreek Hill, and what Tyreek Hill
But it's a pretty big
doing.
cushion over the number 4 guy.
Right. So I think for me, obviously, Rick is right. I think if you want a safe pick at wide receiver, if Diggs stays healthy. And you they lost John Brown too.
That's what I was saying. Yes, that's what.
So
when hosts aren't listening.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
You were distracting me with the Nelson Aguilar.
I know. I'm so distracted right now. I'm not gonna lie.
100, but he could get. I don't think he's gonna go past 168 targets. That's not gonna happen. So I don't think an expanded target share is coming for Diggs, but I do think that there's going to be, I guess, more positional opportunity in the fact that his targets in the red zone might go up, his deep targets might go up, and some of the other things that he was not necessarily having. He had 18 deep targets, which was about 1 a game on the season, and that ranked number 30 in the league for wide receivers. So that was a little bit lower. And a guy like John Brown, who's not necessarily a slot receiver, was a guy that they were chucking it up to all season. So for me, Diggs might start taking that role, but he does everything well, and he's very good. So I think you are very, very safe in just drafting him, at the the 203, 202.
Yeah.
So I think you're fine there. But anyway, the number 5 guy for me is Calvin Ridley. The number 5 guy for Rick is DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Correct.
Do you want to just talk about these last 2 guys?
Yeah. We're not going to talk about anyone else.
Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, for me, I have Calvin Ridley 5 because I think Julio Jones is elderly, and I think it's
okay.
I know you personally. I think you have Julio Jones ranked 9. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think Julio Jones. He's 32, 33, maybe older.
Range. No, I think he's 33. I want to say turning 33 at least.
Internet, man.
I know what's going on.
Crap
bro.
in the bed. Give me.
I know he's at least 32.
He's 32 years old. So this is where wide receivers start to fall off, and I think a lot of people are gonna say he hasn't fallen off. He's still good.
Yeah.
He was good this year.
He just
when
got
he was
injured
on the field. But we're starting, and he was good in 2019 in 15 games, and so he still gets a lot of target share. There is some concern for me that even in these 9 games that he played, right, he had 7.6 targets a game. Where if you go back to 2019, he had 10 targets a game.
I think he did. It's kind of messed up because he left.
Hurt.
Yeah, he left the game early, kind of like Ridley.
I don't think with Calvin Ridley going in, and now. I guess he's not going to be the primary receiver necessarily. Julio's still going to hold that 1 spot, but I think that Calvin Ridley is going to supersede Julio in target share, and I think it's kind of going to be the handing of the torch, I guess, in this offense.
Yeah,
it is concerning to me, very concerning to me that I don't believe they kept Dirk Cutter around. I think he's gone.
Yep,
with the new coaching staff. And I haven't done a ton of research on their coaching staff, but if they don't throw the football as nearly as much as they did before, that could hurt Calvin Ridley in the long run, which is why I don't have Calvin Ridley ranked any higher than 5. I'm willing to move him down depending on what happens this offseason.
Okay.
But I think for me, obviously this whole list might change by the time we get to August, but
right.
I don't know that Julio Jones is going to start taking a lot of this work away from Calvin Ridley, because Calvin Ridley has kind of earned the role. And I think it's kind of like that. This past season was kind of a passing of the torch, kind of from Julio to Calvin Ridley. And I think a lot of people are going to disagree on that, because people still think that Julio is going to be Julio. We don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe what the frick was the injury, by the way? I'll say it on here.
Remember.
Hamstring injury week 2 that had him miss 7 games.
Oh, hamstring, yeah.
And so that's a common injury for an older player. And if something like that happens again and he misses 7 games again, you're going to be in this predicament. So for me right now with Julio, that's kind of why I have him lower. But we're not here to talk about Julio. We're here to talk about Calvin Ridley.
Right.
Calvin Ridley is freaking ridiculous. He had a great target share. he was doing absolutely insane for the most part until he started to get caught by the injury bug a little bit. Like I said, there's a lot of changing parts, which is probably why you have him ranked a little bit lower with the Atlanta Falcons. So we'll see what happens there. As far as DeAndre Hopkins is concerned, I like DeAndre Hopkins. I've always liked DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not going to spend a million hours on him because I don't really feel necessary to do that. His biggest thing. How many targets did he have last year, Hopkins?
I can pull that up for you.
Okay. But Hopkins went to a lot of people were kind of down on Hopkins because he went to
He had
Arizona.
160.
He ended up with the same amount of targets essentially that he did in Houston, which is good news if you're a DeAndre Hopkins manager. But I think for the most part, he wasn't as efficient with the targets that he was getting in Arizona as he was in Houston. He still finished as a top 5 wide receiver, but he only finished with 230 fantasy points through 16 games. Whereas a guy like, Adam Thielen could have jumped up ahead of him had he finished, played one more game. You saw Calvin Ridley. If he played one more game, he probably would have jumped up a little bit higher and been more separated from DeAndre Hopkins. So DeAndre Hopkins was really definitely the wide receiver 5. But the reason why I have him ranked a little bit lower is because you're starting to see new guys come into the fold. You have Calvin Ridley, Stefan Diggs, Justin Jefferson's, even maybe the DK Metcalfs as well, who are a little bit lower on my list, might start jumping over DeAndre Hopkins. He's probably still going to get that 160 target amount this year, but I just don't know how efficient it's going to be.
So I agree with you generally.
Yeah, generally.
But what I will say is I think he's going to be one of those guys that people are like, oh, he's getting old. They're going to drop him in their rankings. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to be like, this year he's going to remind everybody that, he's still DeAndre Hopkins. He's only 28. So people compare him to Julio when it comes to heage, but he's 4 years younger than Julio. So he's still younger. I think he will be 29 though when the season starts, but for a receiver that's as good as Hopkins, that's really not too bad. It's another year in the system, which unlike Calvin Ridley, he's going to be in a new system. And I don't know how much they're going to throw the ball next year with Atlanta. And to be honest, is Matt Ryan even going to be the starter next year? Or are they going to draft somebody and then, they could always trade Matt Ryan, or he starts half the season and they go to the rookie. And Matt Ryan's also getting a year older and honestly has not been as good the last 2 seasons. So there's a concern. There's more concerns and question marks for me with Calvin Ridley. Well, with Hopkins, his situation is going to stay the same.
Yeah, right.
If anything, it might get better. It's another year with Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray continues to improve with Cliff Kingsbury in that offense, I think Hopkins could be somebody who slips this year and is somebody you could take advantage of. But both guys are, very good.
Yeah, I think you're for me, if you were to drop these top 5 or 6 into tiers, obviously I think Adams, Hill, and are probably in the tier of their own.
Yep.
And then I would put A.J. Brown, Stefan Diggs, Calvin Ridley, and DeAndre Hopkins in a second tier.
Okay.
And then you'd have Justin Jefferson, Metcalf, Thomas, Jones, probably in another tier.
Yeah.
So, I think if you're drafting A.J. Brown, Stefan Diggs, Calvin Ridley, or DeAndre Hopkins, you're probably getting a similar player. Your points are very valid on the Calvin Ridley situation. I really don't know. I got to do more.
Yeah,
the
I
coaches
do too.
show is coming. I promise. Where we break down what each coach freaking brings to the table.
Probably is that May?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So, but we'll get a better idea of what coaches might do with players overall. But yeah, I think it's really a top 6, generally speaking. But we only have minute differences between our top.
Yeah, we really
It's
don't.
really from 7 to 12 where we start getting a little bit different there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that'll do it for these top 6 wide receivers for fantasy football 2021. It should be interesting. We'll see if this list changed. I'm not moving Devonta Adams. It's staying where it is unless they sign 4 receivers.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for listening to Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. We'll talk to you on Tuesday.
Take it easy, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.